So yeah, guys, this year, I don't know if you've noticed. I know Jerry noticed because he's caught up on Komi San here. But this is the year where the Romcom boys become men.
What an intro.
We saw that with Nagatoro, love it or hate that series. Boy finally stood up, said his feelings, got the girl. What's the other one? Usagi-chan. He laid pipe, and it was intense. Ooh. My dress up darling. Really? Yeah.
That was the silver-haired short.
Short stack
boy, right?
Yeah. My dress up darling. They're together now. Recently, I saw the latest chapter for Komi San. I'm not caught up. I'm very behind. But what I saw was pretty intense, man. Basically, Oscar, what I saw was that they're sleeping in the same futon in Tadano's room. And she goes, wow, this smells like you. And he's like, oh, this is embarrassing. Stop. And then what does she do? Wait, do you know what I'm talking about, Jerry?
Nope. I didn't even catch up yet, dude. I didn't even know there was a new chapter. I just know the chapter right before where she's inviting him in.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Do you want me to say it then, or do you want to read it?
Don't say it. I'm gonna read it, yeah.
Okay. Just read it, and then we'll get back to it.
Yeah. Fuck, I don't know there was a new chapter.
I saw that this morning. And then, of course, there's just the rise of the horny, you can say, in mangas. We talked about it earlier with that light novel a few episodes ago with the Latina girl. And then now we have, like, the tanned gal breeding rom-com. That's volume 1's already out. I was like, Jesus Christ, man. We're getting there.
I'm a big fan when progress is actually made in romance. So what year are they in, by the way? Are they, like, third years?
What, for Komi San?
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I'm going to say that they graduated already.
Are there time skips like that? I don't know how far you've gotten.
Well, when I last read Komi San, they were already in their third year. That was probably like 100 chapters ago at this point. But no, yeah, I get it. It is rare to see rom-coms go past the high school stage. The only series I read to completion that did that was probably, what was it called? It was like Yankee-kun and Glasses-chan. Well, there's even one I'm reading right now. Was it Please Don't Bully Me, Akutsu-san? That stuff's starting to get into more progress. And it's like, God, finally, because I enjoy that series, but it comes out every other week, and it's only like 8 pages a chapter.
And my favorite part of reading these chapters is looking at the comments, and there's a Facebook comments link. Well, I'm gonna read one. Tadano might die by snoo. Fuck, dude, there's so much. When horny takes over, but that's like whatever. There's like the name of the website you're reading, and it's an image of 2 cars, one getting destroyed by a tank, and then one guy jumping to the other car. The car getting destroyed by a tank is the website name, and then the new car is a fucking hentai website. Oh man, dude, I'm sure nothing happened.
Did you finish it?
Yeah, I finished it. Yeah, okay. And it's adorable, is what it is.
So what happens, Oscar, is, like, she's smelling his blankets, and then she goes under the blankets, and then comes up and says, that smells good. And I'm like, whoa, dude. That is... Oh, yeah. That was intense, man, yeah.
Yeah, you need to catch up, because it's wholesome and horny, if you can put those together.
Yeah. Are they out of high school?
No, they are... they're doing the college entrance exams. So they're on a study trip to Komi's grandma's house, and it's I think it's New Year's. It doesn't put too much emphasis on the fact that it's the holidays and New Year's, but it puts more emphasis on the fact that they're pretty much like on their next step of their relationship, and they almost did it, but it has to stay wholesome. They don't do anything. They just go to sleep red with blood rush to their faces all night.
Oh, sure. I'm sure it was just to their faces.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
The last line said, the sun rose on some intense embarrassment. They just want to sleep kissing and smelling each other. Yeah, our boys become a man.
Heck yeah, dude.
I really wonder how far it's going to go, because I'm expecting it to end like after high school, because the whole point right now is Komi got accepted to her first choice, which was also Tadano's first choice, but he didn't make it. So they're on this study trip because they're both trying to get him to the same university.
And how many chapters are there now? They're in like the 5. Are they almost at 5?
Yeah, they're almost at 5. They're at 482.
That's hefty for a rom-com, man. Not gonna lie.
We've come a long way, man. That's pretty good though, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not one into reading rom-coms, but this one sold me just by the goofs in the beginning, and then you just fall in love with everybody. I think that's ultimately the best way to make somebody fall in love with the character. Like, just, you gotta show, like, not really the negative side, but like their goofy side. They have written flaws, you know, and you have to write, and you gotta like explain them first. They gotta grow from that.
Yeah, usually all of the romance mangas and stuff like that I've read are like short. So like all of the huge ones, I would say, like Komi. Does To Love Ru count?
Yeah, that's a rom-com. It's the most borderline hentai manga out there, probably.
How was that? You read that one, right? Compared to Komi, it's like...
I mean, you can't really compare them. They're just very different. Like, the original run of To Love Ru, like, it's fine. You know, it's supposed to be quirky because she's an alien, and then, like, all of a sudden, there's the whole harem aspect. So right there, it's already splitting off. But it was still staying in, like, a typical harem rom-com route. And then into the sequel with Darkness, they just opened the flood of horniness into it. And it was just, all right, we're making the softest core, like, 2-page spreads out there, dude. And that's just kind of really it. Like, they try to throw a plot in there and stuff, but it's just there if you want, like, if you like high school DD and you want more of that, that's what To Love Ru Darkness is for.
It more like ended up becoming like what call fan service is what it was. Like, it kept going.
Well, the entire series is just fan service, but it really hit the next level with Darkness. I would say, like, the disappointing part with it is, so it's the main character's Rito, and then the alien girl that shows up is oh god, I think it's Lala is her name. She takes a huge back seat into Darkness. That was just kind of disappointing. And the reason is because, like, her two sisters show up at one point, and then the younger sister starts devising this plan of, like, okay, Rito, you're the guy. We're going to make the harem real. And, like, that's her whole plan, and that's kind of, like, sort of the point for Darkness. But, of course, it doesn't really go anywhere. In a sense, it's disappointing. I remember when it ended, there was supposed to be, like, another, like, a third part was supposed to happen, but as a light novel or something. But at this point, I'm like, I'm okay with it just not showing back up again.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. You know, like, it just ran its course a long time ago. It doesn't really have any substance.
Yeah, I mean, the unique thing it did at the end of the original run was Rito makes a decision, and his decision is that he likes his childhood friend and the alien girl. The Lala, the alien girl, she's just okay with it because she's like, oh, because I love her too. Like, we could make this work. And then it kind of just ends with that. So it's like, that could have been just a fine ending, but then, yeah, it kept going into big horny time.
Damn, that kind of blows. Because honestly, I don't really think of too many rom-coms that went on for a long, long time. I don't really think Inuyasha counts because there were a lot of other elements to that.
Yeah, that's a little different. The one I read for sure would be like Love Hina, Nisekoi. But again, those are harem rom-coms, so they are a little different.
I don't know. I recently got more into like the villainous genre. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's just like, usually it's like isekai, but for like rom-coms. So like the girl will like wake up in like the body of like the antagonist or whatever, you know, or like will be like reliving her like life every now and then because she'll get like, the one I was watching in particular is just like she wasn't really immortal, but like every time that she got killed, she would like respawn back to a certain point in her life. And so she got killed like about 7 times, and eventually she ended up like entering like a rom-com with the person who's been killing her 7 times, whether it was like directly or indirectly. And she's like, okay, well, now I'm going to be like the countess or duchess or whatever, so I'm going to like make a difference. Like, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, there are like just I guess like new spin on things that like kind of grabbed my eye for like the 12 episodes that ran for the first season. It was pretty good. I think that with the flood of like all the other kind of stuff that we normally see, like too many exorcism genres or like too much shonen these days, I feel like even like the delinquent mangas like Windbreaker, like when you read it and you told me about it, I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And then I was watching the first season and I was like, this is okay. Like, I feel like this main character is like, he's really tsundere. That's how I saw him. Like, he's a very tsundere person. And I was like,
that's fair. No, yeah, that's fair. I mean, there's always that topic of the anime seasons are always flooded with a bunch of isekai and like video game isekais, and like it's just too much. You just got to really find the niche ones that aren't in like the big magazines these days. Yeah, I mean stuff like Rooster Fighter, that's a pretty unique, fun one. Yeah, you just gotta doom scroll on Twitter and find some good ones. Yeah, like every time Manga Mogura on Twitter, he just posts a bunch of updates and news from magazines and from manga, and that's kind of like where I check out a lot of my stuff, or at least like I'll save a lot of series from that page just to check out later. Like I keep seeing it like at least a couple times a month. I'll see Tamura Ryuhei, right, the guy that did Beelzebub, his new manga Cosmos. It's always being recommended by other mangakas, and I'm like, damn it, dude, I just need to get into that already.
I have to finish Beelzebub.
Dude, so good.
That's a good one.
Dude, it's so good that when we finished it, I didn't even realize, like, you couldn't even tell that manga got canceled because the ending just feels right.
I know, right?
I don't even remember how far off I was from finishing that manga, because I think the last thing that I remember was like, it was probably filler, honestly, but the last thing I remember was like them having some sort of volleyball match. I don't know if that checks out to you.
It was at the school, right?
Yeah, this was already after like a point where like they go to hell for the first time, and like he gets big and like or he gets like humongous and just like wrestles.
Yeah, I remember that. You know what, man? You could just start over. You can do that. It's a good time.
I would definitely do that. There's nothing bad about starting over. Besides, I always like. I think the thing that drew me to the first place was the wet nurse. What was her name? Hilda.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, we got a lot of One Piece news, specifically for the Netflix show. Biggest thing is the leaks were real, man. We're getting Joe Manganiello or whatever, how you pronounce that. He played Deathstroke. He was the bully in Spider-Man 1. He's playing Mr. Zero, a.k.a. Crocodile. What a pick, man. That's pretty strong.
Dude, that's fucking wild.
And then we got Lara Abova as Miss All Sunday, a.k.a. Nico Robin. She's essentially like a no-name actress. She's only been in like 3 things. She's also a model.
Perfect. That's perfect.
So we'll see what she can bring to the table, man. Somebody did the fan edit, and I could see it.
Hell yeah. Did you watch the first one, or did you skip that?
Yeah, I watched it. I just wasn't It's okay. I may rewatch it just to see if I still think that, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was fine. Most of the choices made sense for the adaptation. Some of them are kind of interesting. We got a set tour video with the actor that plays Buggy, and we saw a lot of stuff. A lot of it was blurred out, but basically just showing like what we're gonna expect for season 2. We saw concept art for Drum Island or Drum Kingdom. We just saw like a lot of the props that are gonna be used. So it's it's exciting time for One Piece.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be the year for One Piece, man.
The only thing I'm curious about is how much screen time are we going to get Mr. Zero for season 2? I don't think we're going to get a whole lot, right? Because there's no way they're going to hit Alabasta for season 2.
Did they already say how many episodes they were going to do for this new season?
I mean, it's probably going to be 8 again.
If they say that they're going to go all the way to Alabasta, well, they'll have to do one or the other. There's no other way I can see it other than them cutting out so much, which would be good as a second season, obviously.
Confirmed 8 episodes for season 2. So I'm gonna guess. See, I want to say like that's gonna be before they enter Alabasta. Like that'll be the cliffhanger of them entering Alabasta. Which I'm like, okay, yeah. So season 3, I'm excited to see Crocodile because we're never gonna see him. Like we might just see him in the one scene where Mr. 3 calls him while they're in Little Garden. That's probably it. That's with Bragi and Draghi.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah. I'm familiar now. Okay.
Pretty obvious at this point now, since like pretty much almost every single leak that was out there for the cast is confirmed now. The guy that did Cobra Kai and Blue Beetle, he's probably going to be Ace. Especially because Netflix recently dropped as well, Inaki, the guy that plays Luffy, he went on the set of Cobra Kai and hung out with that guy. And it's like, oh, like, come on, like, can you make it any more obvious? I think that's a good pick, too, for Ace.
Yeah, he's like a little darker version of Ace. I like that.
Yeah. Are you guys caught up?
Oh, yeah, I just caught up, like, yesterday.
Dude.
I think I'm 1 chapter behind.
We're about to hit the filler. This smells like a filler right here, dude. Nothing important happened the last chapter, did it? It's just like the second to last.
Second to last chapter was huge. Yeah. Yeah, there's just so many questions, and then like, oh, we're not going to see that until who knows when.
So you saw the whole thing with Saturn, Oscar?
We're talking about where he stayed behind, right?
Yeah. So did you finish the chapter?
No,
dude.
No, because I think he would have said it.
You would have said it, because it's literally, it's that chapter. It's so crazy, man. I just can't wait to see what we're gonna do next. It seems like Emu is the one fucking doing everything, so we'll see if like they give him a face, because it'd be cool if he just like stayed in shadow the whole time with just his eyes. The fucking stupid JoJo go fucking the sound effect.
Wait, you said give him a face? Him?
Whatever,
her?
Emu.
No, one of the theories is that it's Emu is Vivi's ancestor.
Right, the one, the Nefertiti that didn't go back, where it was.
Yeah.
I think is what it was.
So Cobra's not wife?
This would be like hundreds of years ago. Yeah, Emu's from like the blank century.
Some crazy stuff happening, dude. Oscar, get on it now.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Did Nami wake up in other clothes? She did, huh? They fucking changed her out.
Yeah, they did.
All right. So yeah, it fucking looks like a palace, austere. Fucking, I saw a chandelier, I think. Yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. I'm telling you though, it smells like a filler.
Yeah, at least for like the beginning.
If it is a filler, I hope it has like something to do with the end. I'm tired of fillers, man. I just want to get to the end already.
Tired of them splitting off all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't have another one of those for a while.
Oh boy, Oscar.
Oh shit.
I'm okay with it just because the world is so big now. Like Oda kind of has to do that.
And they did leave on 2 ships too, so of course some shit's gonna happen.
I tell you what, though, I do need to catch up on Chainsaw Man because I've been seeing the stuff for the recent chapter. Pretty crazy. Yeah.
Bruh. Yeah, man. Just catch up on it, because I know it's a slow burn, but once it gets like popping off, man. Oscar, remember when you said when he eats shit? Yeah, you were right, man. That was crazy. And they just like disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fuck. There's so much of that. It's like, how do you fight this guy? And then War coming in with her fucking badassery.
Sorry, I've just been reading 26 now. This is pretty good. I like all the movement that's been happening too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of get that understanding where you're coming from, Jerry. How like things are kind of transitioning into like some sort of filler substance. But I actually think that I wouldn't really say it's almost like a filler, but it reminds me of like how we transitioned from what was it, like after Ennis Lobby, we kind of like transitioned into Thriller Bark. Like there was like a little bit of like chapters that kind of explained what else happened into the world in between, and then they kind of sailed into the mist and got lost. Because it gives enough time for them to have days or weeks of them just kind of like recuperating, and then for them to just, in that case, run out of food and be like, all right, well, we've been on the run and we didn't get a chance to stop anywhere because we're fucking broke. I really like the interaction with Shanks and Bartholomew.
Crazy.
Dude, fuck Yasop, bro. Disrespectful.
Dude, Yasop, bro. When their back is turned.
Shank's like, it's cool, man. It's just Luffy's fanboy. He's like, no, fuck him, dude. We gotta destroy this shit. Come on.
Nah, he disrespect you, dude. Yeah, I don't know. Yasop was like that, dude. That's insane.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least 2 pirates we don't know what's going on with Law and with Bartolomeo now. Because we know Kid's gone. Like, there's no point in even thinking of, like, what happened to him. He's just dead. Well, not dead, but he's just cooked.
That's rad. How does Blackbeard know that Kobe is the piece to everything?
Kobe's, like, popular. That's why. He's, like, the linchpin right now. He's, like, the current hero, basically. Everyone loves him and all that. He's, like, he's like the face of the new generation.
The new guard
of the Marines. Yeah.
Damn, if anybody works fast, it's Blackbeard. This man has always had a plan and has been enacting on his plans every single moment, the whole entire time. Like, since we saw him before Skypiea, I like the switch up that he's got too, right? Like his whole thing about his the theory about his personality switching.
As we're gearing towards the release of Sparking Zero, we're getting a bunch of stuff out of it. We're getting all the characters being announced. Yeah, my only thing is that it says on the back of the case that there's over 180 characters, and I'm like, is there really though? Like, how many of those are transformations? Like, let's break that down first.
Yeah, and I don't think it's possible for you to start with like base Goku and like go into these different forms, right?
They confirmed you can transform.
Oh, so like Goku can go into red, blue, 3, 2.
No, it's going to be, you have to pick a certain version of Goku, and then he'll have those versions of transformations, just like how it was in the old Tenkaichi games.
Well, that sucks, but, I guess it was to be expected.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been like that. Well, I don't know. When I first saw the announcements with all the transformations, I was thinking, they're not going to be able to transform then. Like, you have to pick the form. Like, that's going to be really shitty. But no, you could just transform if you want. Which makes me wonder how the balance is going to be, since they have, like, quote-unquote accurate scaling with power levels. Yeah, but I'm excited. We're only, like, about a month out, I think. Thank God, man, we got the GT trailer, dude. Like, I think I mentioned it, like, we might not get it. And I was like, dude, if we don't get it, man, it's over. Like, I don't even care. But no, we got him. The only character we're missing is Super Android 17, which I don't think a lot of people are too upset about that.
That was funny because I did see, like, a Xenoverse 2 meme where they're just like, we're adding GT characters. And then it was just like, you forgot about one. And it's just 2 Android Super 17s doing their specials against each other. Jumping ships here. Speaking of, like, things that I caught up with, because I caught up to One Piece now. I also caught up to Lookism finally.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Great, dude.
Hell yeah, it is.
So did you start Hunt for Gun then?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm already in, I think it's number 6 or 7, I don't know. But yeah, just before you have to start paying coins is where I'm at. Man, that was intense. I mean, just one person against, like, pretty much the whole cast.
Oh yeah, man. This is literally the roster. Like, you already know Gun is the top. Who is the fucking next?
We're about to see right now. I don't... Can I just say... The last chapter was such a cliffhanger. I don't know if you guys were in the same one, but it's like right where we're finally getting that 1v1 again with God Dog and Gun. And he's just like, yeah, you know, I know it's going to suck because you can't see. And then he just has those eye drops.
Oh, yeah.
And you would think that he actually like uses the eye drops, but instead he just crushes it in his hand and then splashes it in his eyes. And I was like, "That's not how you do that."
Yes, it is. That's how you do it, man. That's how
if
you
you're
fucking do it before
cool,
you about to
dude.
fuck somebody up.
I was like,
yeah,
what happened
man.
to all the plastic shit that you just crushed in your hand, bro?
Fuck that shit, dude. Is Gun still wearing his shirt?
No, shirtless. No. I don't know how far you saw, but
are they still on the bridge?
No,
they're on the ground.
Yes.
His arm is fucked.
Yes.
Oh my god, dude, bro. Just wait, man. It's gonna be so good, dude, bro. But when Mandoc did the fucking capoeira bullshit, I fucking lost my mind, man. I thought he was gonna be like Marduk or something like that with just fucking kickboxing shit. This dude just pulls out with the fucking just straight up Eddie Gordo on Gun, man. It's insane.
He slung his already fractured, broken leg and just wrapped it around his.
It's getting so crazy, dude.
I was like, dude, this dude is not going to be able to walk again. I'm going to be ecstatic, like when they all come back and they're like all hurt, but they're like, oh yeah, we're survived.
I know, right?
He technically broke two of his legs. Yeah, because his good leg was covered around the arm that Gun's arm broke. And when that other guy came in and like broke his arm, yeah. He also broke his leg at the same time.
Yep.
Because both of his legs were broken. Just a wake of destruction that got left behind. He's just moving around with a little tiny toolbox.
Pretty much, yeah. Huh?
It's gonna be like the best in the world when he opens that box and it's like, hey, there's no red paper here.
That's what I'm waiting for, honestly. Because right now it's just like switching hands with people who's getting their shit rocked.
It's like, yeah, Daniel still had it all the way back in the beginning. You just didn't pick it up.
It's gonna be something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about.
I finished reading Shogun.
Nice.
Congratulations to the show. I don't know if you guys saw it. It won 18 Emmys.
God damn.
Yeah, it was nominated for, I think, like 30 or something, however many Emmys they like to give out. So that's pretty cool. You know, I think it's well-deserved. There's a lot of passion in the show. It looks amazing and all that. At some point, I'll probably start watching it again because I'm curious to see what's going to happen now. No, there is, yeah. So when I was reading this back half of the book, the thing in my mind was, all right, how is this going to end? Because season 2 got announced for the show. Season 1 covers the entire book. So that means season 2 is just going to be, you know, all new shit. My friends hate that idea because it's like, well, you're not even like who cares? It's not going to be as good. I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's not like the book is good, but I don't feel like there's a uniqueness when it comes to James Clavell's writing when it comes to this. It's also like historical fiction. So it's based off of, you know, loosely based off of real events. So you can just keep going in the timeline for season 2. I don't know how the show ends, but from the ending, I could easily see a season 2 happening, and I would kind of be okay with it. Last episode, I said, like, the magic was kind of dying, and then in, like, the last, like, 5 or so chapters, some things were being revealed, and I kept thinking, oh, shit, dude, we're back. Like, this is crazy, bro. This dude's playing 4D chess out here. Like, no one's on this man's level, man. That's why he's him. And it's seeing, like, the aftermath of that stuff and what it's saying is building up. I do want to see more of that. Freaking Helldivers 2, it kind of sounds like we're back, guys. I haven't hopped on yet, but yeah, a lot of fixes in the recent update. We got the Napalm Barrage.
Oh my god.
They buffed up a bunch of fire damage to the point where the Thermite Grenade,
the sticky,
that thing can now one-shot Bile Titans if you throw it right at its face.
Get the fuck out of here, man. Oh my god.
You're lying to me right now.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of clips on the subreddit, but like the fire damage on that thing went from, I think, 100 to 2,000, if I'm remembering the numbers right.
Enemies only, right? Not to...
all around.
Just fire damage in general. Yeah.
Orale.
I'm ready to get back.
I'm ready to solo again, missions again, man. Because that was... When I did all that, that was like the funnest time I had, man. I felt like a super soldier getting sent on a solo mission to the world just to, I don't know, do some stupid bullshit. It's so fun, man. Now the fact that they buffed like all this kind of shit just makes you want to go back. That's for sure. I'm gonna do that later today.
Hell yeah, dude. Especially because they already announced a couple packs. There's the Poison pack that came out. Now, Jerry, a reason why you would not want to do solo is they're also including a brand new archetype for the secondaries. It's a healing gun. It's a stim pistol. So they have healing guns now that we can shoot with each other.
That's cool.
Oh man, is PlayStation in a weird roller coaster. First, it's over with Concord. And then, hey, we're back. Astrobot. And now we're over again because of the PS5 Pro. But guys, we're so back with Freedom Wars Remastered. It's leaving the Vita prison and coming to consoles. That's pretty awesome.
I think this was really like one of the only Monster Hunter type games that I didn't get into at the time. And I don't remember why. I think because I didn't have a Vita yet at the time. And then when I think it came out for free at one point, I feel like these kind of games should have gotten their flowers a little bit more. Kind of like a God Eater or what was the other one? You remember Tokuden? Tokuden?
Yeah. Well, Tokuden 2 got to console.
True, yeah, they did.
Yeah, we just never hopped on it.
I think I remember this game. I got to see some gameplay really quick.
My friends are hyped. This was like one of the biggest like multiplayer games on the Vita at the time. Yeah, so really cool to see that that's coming out. PlayStation's on the high. But that did not last for long, man, because later, after that announcement, it's so over, guys. They announced Horizon Zero Dawn remastered for PS5 and PC. I just don't get it, man. Don't get, like, sure, was it going to look a little nicer? I guess, but, like, it's not even a 10-year-old game at this point. I think the first game was definitely talked about more than the sequel. I don't know, they still kind of just released at the worst times, so it's like, I never saw a whole lot of people talk about either game, but it's, I don't know, to me it's crazy that Sony keeps pushing this IP. There's the VR games, we're getting the Lego game, and then, I was talking with some other friends, and I told them, like, yeah, don't forget, like, they also released Last of Us 2 Remastered, like, that was a thing that happened. Yeah, I don't know. Just wild to see, like, they're bringing all these recent games again, and then they're talking about how they're struggling when they have no IP, and then you look at that Astrobot game, and you look at all the IP they own in that game just sitting there.
This is a perfect opportunity for them to really just, bring back a lot of their old games. Like, there is no... I don't see the issue with bringing back, like, IPs from, like, the PS2 days, you know?
My thing is, yeah, sure, they have all this IP, and I do want to see a lot of it come back, personally. Well, how much traction are these IPs going to pull, and are they really going to put all the sales that, that they hope for?
If it comes to total units sold, and, if that scales well with basically, some of the other IPs. But then again, when it comes to, like, I guess that example of, like, I'll buy it, but not right now, there could be IPs that would make someone want to change their mind. Just for example, like Parappa the Rapper getting a new game, or like Sly Cooper. those IPs, and when we think about like, oh, those kind of games that are coming back, like I wonder what they're going to do with like PS5 capabilities. They're not really willing to go back to that era where we can really just throw any idea against the wall and just make a game of any genre and make it last about anything. So, for example, like again, like Sly Cooper, you know, if they were to try to bring this game back, is it going to be in that same format that Sly 1, 2, and 3 were? Are they going to try to change it to make some sort of, you know, quote unquote upgrade to like what people expect now for a AAA game? If they wanted to add like some, which I don't feel like is necessary, but like try to add something like open world to Sly Cooper, that would probably work to some capacity. But instead of open world, you could probably make it a sandbox, you know, versus like a linear path, you know, like that's something. It at least adds to the idea. But I don't know. I just feel like they're not really willing to do any of that because all they want is to just develop like a new IP that should be synonymous with the PS5 and not older IP that was synonymous with the older versions. And they just feel like, a part of me understands, not to cut off my own idea, but a part of me understands what they're talking about when they're like, not talking about, but not willing to like look back, so to speak. Like if it's something that they're catering to us, like with Crash and Spyro and everything getting remastered, that's one thing. They'll do that, but not fairly often. It's just very capable for Crash because Crash is still like a very family friendly game, you know, like they can just like, oh, we can push this and still push it out to kids. It still has the same target audience, both older adults and younger kids. That the formula hasn't changed much. They don't need to do anything to that. If I take Parappa, like what I was just saying, for example, like rhythm games are hard. Parappa was a hard game. And not a lot of people bought those kind of games because they weren't really interested in like, I guess the format, like the genre. But I don't know, like if you're willing to put in the effort to kind of like grab something and change it, like the example that I gave with Sly, then that can also be done with something like Parappa. Like it's just feasible enough for you to be like, hey, maybe we can add like a difficulty. So like if you're doing it on easy or something like that, then the things will come at you a lot slower. Maybe, you know what I mean? Versus like if you do it on a higher difficulty, like a Rap God difficulty or something like that, you know, then they'll come at you super fast, you know? They're not really like quality of life changes that are like taking too much like resource from somebody or would need too much manpower, but it just requires a little bit of outside the box thinking. And I feel like they're missing out on that. They don't want to do any of that. Like I said, they're just really like wanting to create new IP that's just synonymous with this new console and just kind of like wash everything else on the rug.
The main thing that they're doing now is, you know, the third person narrative driven action games. The things that they try to branch out on fail because they're doing the wrong ones, right? Like Concord, obviously the hero shooter, no one cared. And then I don't know if you even remember freaking Foam Stars happened.
Yeah, I remember it came out for free.
Well, when it launched, they came out on Plus as well. Yeah, but that was the Splatoon clone. Yeah, I don't know if anybody ever played that game. Yeah, they're just focusing on big IPs, big budgets, which, you know, necessarily there's nothing wrong with that, but like you can also just dedicate to smaller games like Astrobot. They gave Astrobot team a chance to make something fun. Yeah, I would like another Sly game, but you know they did give it the chance with Sly 4 and then nobody liked it, so we're probably never going to see Sly again.
It's a time thing. There are timings to releasing things, you know, but that's what they did a lot back then during the PS2 era. They just threw things to the wall. Time and money weren't really like a factor.
Yeah, PS2 era was just different compared to now. That is true. I mean, you know, I've said it before, like the mascot games, you know, they're slowly coming back in the indie scene. So seeing like a low budget mascot game would be fun. I guess the one thing I am glad that they still let Insomniac do is the Ratchet and Clank games. But who knows how long that's going to last with them doing Spider-Man and now they're doing Wolverine. You know, is Insomniac just going to be the Marvel studio? I really hope not. I would love at least one more Ratchet and Clank game before like the PS6 comes out. I
would honestly love if they brought like a Deadlock remaster. I don't know. I like the idea of like the Gauntlet Ratchet and Clank, you know, like that was always a fun one for me. It's not really big anymore, but like they had a lot of good racing IPs. Like we had Wipeout. We had Twisted Metal. So a lot of those IPs, it'll be a bit more popular by the time it comes back because we're not really in the trend where like, you know, like Twisted Metal or Burnout or anything like that is like a real big thing. I think it made sense for Twisted Metal when it came back out on the PS3, because I think around that time Death Race was still a big thing.
Yeah, but also like the show is out. Like they're doing season 2. Like I'm surprised there's not like a racing game for Twisted Metal.
Are they still working on season 2? Because I didn't even know like they were working on it.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings me to a point that's just like it's not really popular. You know, it doesn't probably bring in the numbers like they want it to. And it wouldn't probably bring in enough eyes on the game if they announced a new one.
Or season 1 was popular enough to get the season 2. That's on Peacock. You know, that's definitely a streaming service a lot of people don't necessarily have.
I don't know. Because if you think about it, like, yeah, they got a season 2. But then I just think about, like, how like, these kind of projects work, you know? Like, it put enough money back into itself where they can try to continue that to see if more money is feasible. It's the viewer count that I'm thinking of. Are we going to get more or enough of the target viewers to get enough eyes on the show and be like, hey, this is great? If a game came out, I would definitely get it. Not I would maybe get it, but I would definitely get it. And that's kind of their problem, right? There's no real big way to predict like whether this was going to happen unless it was more or less like a national craze. You know what I mean? Like if people were just nonstop talking about it for like 27 days or something like that.
Kind of just want just a low budget from a PS2 era IP that, you know, it would be profitable just because it's such a low budget game. I think they could do that.
To your point, I'll tell you where we do see all of this come from, where it's not dead, are the indie developers.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these people putting out games on Steam and like some of these games also being released onto PlayStation, like good on them, you know, because they're like the only ones that are really just trying to break the format. I don't know if you gave it a try, but you know, Video Game Donkey, he helped come out with a video game recently called Animal Well.
Wait, what is it called?
Animal Well. Yeah, it's kind of like, I would say more of like a Metroidvania type game. It doesn't really have like I think like enemy elements. Just really more of like an exploratory game. So, you know, it's like we don't get a lot of Metroidvanias.
Yeah, we do. What are you talking about?
Not often. I mean, like I said, we get a lot of indies that make Metroidvanias.
Well, that's where they belong now, is in the indie scene. Like, you're not going to see big studios make Metroidvanias like that.
Not like pixelated 2D, but they could do it. They just don't want to just spend the time to develop a new, different format for it. Like, my example would have been, like, if Lords of the Shadow weren't more Devil May Cry-ish, they could have done that. They could have made an open sandbox Dracula's Castle, like Castlevania 64, or like the PS2 Castlevania games. Like, those are kind of more, like, level-based, but also at the same time give you the freedom of, like, revisiting other levels and, you know, platforms and things like that with other powers. That would be, like, my big example of what they could have done. You say shit like, oh, it should be an indie game, or it should be in that kind of category. It's like, well, they could do that.
Yeah, because that's just how it is now.
What I was going to say is it sounds like a lane, but it doesn't have to be in that lane. Like, they don't have to fit. And this is going to be part of, like, how, like, really how well other, like, AAA or AA studios are going to do with whatever kind of games are going to come out with in the future. Are they just going to be copy and paste of, like, other AAA games that come out and whatever sort of, like, genre they were doing? You know, or how many more open world games are we going to get before they come out with the next big idea, and then everybody's just going to rip off that idea? Every couple of months, you know, we hear the idea of a brand new battle royale. What is so different about this battle royale that the other 20 or 30, 50 battle royales we've had since Fortnite came out? It's all eventually just going to be like a repeat. We need to be meshing ideas together is how I feel. Some people do this correctly, and then some people don't. I feel like some people have a great idea but aren't able to execute it correctly. Some people are able to do all these things, and then they just don't release it on, like, in a, I would say, during the right time or window where, like, people are still interested in that kind of thing. It all adds up, unfortunately. Like, everything has to be just right for something to, like, really change the world from direction we're going in, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we'll have a game like Hi-Fi Rush come out, and it just explodes and everyone's loving it. And then we'll have lately a lot is like on all these, all these presentations, we see a lot of games coming out, a lot of different genres and like play style, and just no one cares because they just don't look that good. So it's just a weird lull. Like, that's the problem though, is like no one's taking the risks. Like you're saying, like trying to try these new ideas, because like if you're going to make a big AAA game with that kind of concept, it's at minimum 4 or 5 years spent. Who knows how big the budget's going to be? And then what happens if it flops? Then we're never going to see something like that again. Yeah, the era of risk is just gone for big studios.
I mean, ultimately, they're risking just by not trying. It seems like either way, you're just slowly preventing yourself from being bought out by another studio. Whether it's going to be PlayStation or Microsoft. Like, you're just slowly working your way there. And it feels like people are always going to be put in this position where they're rushed into making a project. Like, their Hail Mary project before they go bankrupt and be like, okay, we need to put all of our time and effort into this. But it's like, you could have preemptively thought about doing that early on. So instead of waiting until you were finally in a position where, like, it's do or die. And I saw this earlier. I follow this guy on YouTube. I think we probably mentioned this before, but his name is Pirate Software. And he used to work for Blizzard, his own studio now, whatever. And he talked about this at one point. He's just like, the problem with gaming studios is they're in a position where they release a really good, big blockbuster game. And then instead of giving themselves enough time and I would say, like, resource finances to kind of build themselves up to do it again, they just immediately go into the next big project right after they just burn themselves out or drain themselves and just use whatever they've had. They're like, okay, we just finished doing this giant big thing. How can we make this even better? Or instead, it's just like you could have finished your big project, then tried 3 new small ideas, whether they were going to be successful or not, and then depending on what happened with those 3 small projects, whether they did good or not, go into your next big one. There are people following this format. I haven't really seen them, to be honest, because obviously I'm not really open to their games or whatever kind of projects are coming out. But there have been a lot of successful projects. Bloodstain, that's what it's called.
Bloodstain, yeah.
Yeah, so to me, I was like, okay, hey, this was a Kickstarter project, I believe.
It was, yeah.
I don't think that he has another big project planned after this, but I think that what he was doing was working on, like, super small things. Like, I know that for this game specifically, they did come out with small updates. Like, along the DLCs that they released, they're still, like, slowly updating the game, adding new characters for you to play. Okay, now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, they did release smaller projects because, like, the spin-off of this game, which was, like, the older version of Castlevania, like the 2D platformers, like, those are the ones that ended up being the spin-off series that had sequels. So they made, like, I think 2 or 3 of those games, and those games also just recently got updated too. So I would say this is a good example of, like, someone following the format of doing a big project, then doing smaller projects, and then going into a bigger project.
I think we're talking about 2 different things then. I thought you were talking about, like, the big studios, like PlayStation and Microsoft, taking risks and stuff. But it sounds like you're just talking about smaller studios not taking big risks. Because, like, small indie studios, yeah, they're always doing something different. It's just a matter of if it's appealing or not.
I would say more like anybody can do it. Like, I would use the smaller studios as an example, because that's the example that I was shown when I watched the Pirate Software video. But I would say this also applies to, like, the AA and AAA studios. Like, it's up to that company to decide, like, hey, we just made Assassin's Creed. Like, instead of making Assassin's Creed 2, maybe we should, like, do another project that we thought of, save enough money, and then go back to Assassin's Creed 2. So that way when we make it, it's going to have a lot more better quality of life, a lot more updates, a lot more ideas that we can think of, And necessarily, I don't think it went in that direction, but by the time that they did come out with Assassin's Creed 2, it was like, oh, is it an 8 or 9? It's just like Assassin's Creed, but just a tiny bit better. And then 3, 4, 5, 6, and all the other ones came out, and it's like, oh, they're all pretty much the same, give or take a water element,
I mean, I don't know. That's when it gets tricky because, yeah, Assassin's Creed did become like a yearly thing. It was just easy because they're just using the same engine. They just have to make the new environments and stuff, and they just kept doing that because it was making the sales, so they had like no real problem, And then now, like, that they're actually making a quote unquote effort, right? Like, a game won't come out every year, but they'll make the new gen Assassin's Creed games be like huge and massive and all that. But then on the flip side, you go look at Yakuza, right? You look at RGG, you see that they're almost on 2 games a year right now. Like, the way their release is amping up recently, they can do that because they're just using the same engine and the same models and all that. But, they're doing great. It's being successful, regardless of, like, how frequent the releases are.
Yeah, I can definitely say that RGG is an exception. They've only ever done like games that are adhering to the series. The spin-off still adheres to the same characters, same models. They just take them and put them in different situations. But then again, it's just like their target audience primarily hasn't really looked outside of Japan. Like, it does look outside Japan, but it's a Japanese game. You know, like, I feel like part of the reason why they can be exempt from that is because their target audience is like pretty much just young boys and older adult men, and then eventually grown men who were like all about, you know, like the really early on macho like Yakuza and like man thing. It was a really prominent thing in the early 90s for anime. When we think like I don't know like the whole official name for it, but I think of like
like Bonchos?
Yeah, Bonchos, like Fist of the North Star.
Or like City Hunter, Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah. So just, you know, like burly men type shit, you know, like I'm about it, you know. My honor is at stake, you know. I feel like that a lot of that resonates, you know, a lot of Japanese men, I feel.
Like, but RGG knows that they're popular outside of Japan. Like, I don't think we would be getting as frequent of releases as we do if it wasn't for Yakuza 0 being so popular both in Japan and everywhere else, right? I mean, freaking 8 Infinite Wealth has Danny Trejo in it. Why would that happen unless they know who their target audience is outside of Japan?
That's something that they grew to learn. That's something that I'll acknowledge for sure. But, you know, early on, you know, when we're just talking about, like, Yakuza 1 through 5, you know, not 0, not 6, not 7 or 8.
Yeah, but that's a different era, though. I wouldn't pull that as an example because it's not like it was advertised out here. I mean, 5 didn't even get a physical release out here, right? Like, they stopped the dub at the first game because... But now it's different. So they're able to do the things that they're doing now.
Well, my point, like I said, my point for bringing that up was like they're a studio that has an exception for not needing to do smaller releases. Like they can just keep doing a new release for their project. But then that in of itself, it's like I like to think that the jumps that they made in between these games, like for example, from Yakuza 2 to 3, and then from 3 to 4, how we had like multiple characters after we just had Kiryu, and then we just had multiple cities after just being in Kamurocho. So like the jumps that they made it made sense for, I guess, like sequel titles, you know, like for for like consecutive series to be released, because they're not like overall entirely like groundbreaking. They add on to the game and they change the game, but not to the point where like it's an entirely new game altogether. Technically, I think Like a Dragon would fit that description, because now we're no longer just like straight up beat 'em up. Their target audience gave them an opportunity to kind of just slowly build up on their only project, really, and then create spin-off projects when they just kind of felt like they just needed to.
Yeah, so basically at the end of the day, if you want good fun games, don't look at the big boys, look at the small teams, because there'll be ones making different games besides whatever is coming out from Sony.
Actually, last thing I want to talk about that, there is an example of that going backwards. A while ago, a couple of years ago, there was a game studio that got bought by Gearbox. It was Hopu Games. They were the creators of Risk of Rain. Risk of Rain is a really great series. So what ended up happening is after they bought Risk of Rain, they ended up getting bought by Gearbox publishers. And what ended up happening to them, based off what I've read, is after coming out with Risk of Rain 2, which did really well, like the base game did phenomenal. It was such a good game. The issue started happening is when they were like working on DLC, putting in resources, manpower, time, and then just trying to make things work. And I think one of the first issues that they ran into was that they couldn't release the DLC simultaneously, because the game was released on Steam and is released on console. But the DLC came out on Steam first, and then like every time they had like a blog post or an update, like a developer update, they would almost never address the DLC on console. Hey, so let me just kind of break this down. Like we're just kind of like spread really thin. You know, we're working on like a whole bunch of new things that, you know, Gearbox wants us to do, and basically it's cutting down on like all of our time and focus on these things. So there were a lot of projects that ended up getting released way later down the line. So like I think the console release for the DLC didn't happen until like a year and a half to 2 years later after the Steam release did. By that time, they were already announcing another DLC, and it was just a big mess. Recently, they did finally release the other DLC, I think it's called like I think it's called Survivors of the Storm, if I'm not mistaken. All the dedicated Risk of Rain 2 players, they fucking hate it. It's just so bad. Unfair balancing, I would say, like statuses and things like enemies have that kind of like do the opposite of what the game was supposed to do. You know, the game is just basically how long can you survive. What the update is introduce enemies that kind of make it so that by the time that you get to end game and you're already set up with your build or whatever, like you're going up against like essentially enemies that can negate everything that you've built up. That's just what they do. Like they can just end the game for you right then and there, basically. And they shouldn't really work that way. So it's like not a lot of good planning on their part for like things that they're adding. Ultimately, the game is in a state right now where even after the release of the DLCs, both on console and Steam, and all the updates that they're doing, the studio themselves are like, yeah, like it really just came down to us not having all of the resources and time and management that we needed. We couldn't give any of this time and effort into this because Gearbox and the publishers are wanting us to focus on other things and other projects that they needed to be done. And it's about really like how they were like, being given like these time constraints that don't involve like a lot of what their main game was. So they basically had to drop a lot of their own stuff, their own projects as soon as it got picked up by Gearbox. It wasn't really going to be like a mutual beneficial thing for them to work on their own stuff. So I think the main reason why I brought this up is because like this reminds me of an example of where like we had seen like a good promising studio coming up and could have had the makings of doing something really great with this kind of IP, like taking roguelike and really making it like on the map. And instead, because of like essentially bad management on behalf of the publisher and like all the other things that they were trying to have them do, it just kind of like got shit on. And now it's like dead in the water. That sucks. I would say that hopefully for a lot of these studios coming up with all of these great ideas, that you really have an opportunity to get saddled with a partner that really will like help you, like a partner, like a publisher that's gonna like, make sure that they see all of the profit that could come from, bringing you on board and all of your ideas and how good those things are.
And that's always the big question. And investors and the big companies, they just don't want to take those risks.
It's like what I talked about earlier. It's like for big studios to also not take these risks, to do these things, is also a waste of time, a waste of money. It's like you're dying slowly either way. You either trying to make yourself last to the point where you're just last.
But what studios are you talking about though? Are you talking about indie studios or are you talking about AAA studios?
I'm talking about big studios when it comes to them sitting on their hands, not them not wanting to try and only them working on their bigger projects.
For AAA though, like they're like sure they're just sitting on their hands sticking to one genre, but it's not like that's a bad formula because all these big PlayStation games are still making millions of sales. Like it's still profitable. So that's why they don't see a reason they need to take big risks if they're just going to be losing money. Concord aside, because that's like the only big example because that was such a huge budget. But like all the other games, yeah, they're doing fine. They're doing successful. And now they're dropping on Steam, so they're only going to keep the sales growing. So, it's not like they're going to fail and like those big studios are going to shut down. Like not even necessarily the indie studios are going to fail either, just because, like the only reasons they would is if like just some other interaction is involved that causes them to go under. Right, like them being bought out by Microsoft, for example. Right, a lot of studios get shut down because Microsoft doesn't know what to do with them, and they were doing fine. I guess they were doing okay before the buyout, but now they're really doing nothing because Microsoft doesn't want to do anything with them. All right, we got some emails this week. Unversedpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions or comments, today we have an email from the boy Mark. Thank you as always. And he says, what's the most bizarre behind the scenes thing you heard about and wanted it to happen or not? His example is Alien 2 was supposed to be the end of the Ripley story, and the original script for Alien 3 was going to follow Hicks' task following an SOS on a wooden planet filled with monks where there was a xenomorph that took a form from a bull ox. Or Terminator 3 was supposed to be something completely different. Yeah, that's always crazy just seeing or just hearing what like a movie specifically was going to be. The recent one I know was talking about, like, after watching Deadpool and Wolverine, Deadpool 2 originally was going to be involving the 2015 cast of Fantastic Four. And, like, they were going to be, like, not a pivotal, but they were going to be, like, a big part in the movie. And, like, some other stuff was going to happen. And it's like, oh, man, like, I kind of wanted to see that. Like, that would have been fun to see, like, just them show up again. Whether or not it'd be a parody take or a real take of them playing those characters again. That could have been something. The Thing versus Juggernaut was supposed to happen in that version of the movie. Man, that could have been something. I don't know too many examples about, like, other stuff, like, with games or something. I don't really hear too much about, like, the behind the scenes for making games and what they had to change. The only one, like, I know, because I remember watching the DVD on God of War 2, was there was going to be a whole level of Atlantis, and you were going to go down there and explore it, and then they got pretty far into developing the level, and then they ended up scrapping it completely. It's like, dang, like, that would have been nice to see, just because I love God of War 2 so much.
I guess if it counts, like, there's a lot of cut content that they have, like, for things like Elden Rings and, like, all the other Soulsborns that was really cool. Like, when I watch, like, Vatividia or, like, Zuli the Witch, they always talk about, like, content that was cut out of the game that has, like, its own lore description and stuff like that they talk about. I mean, I always think that, like, the scrapped ideas that they had for games that they could have brought in, those are some interesting ideas. Like, I don't have, like, any good examples from Elden Ring, but I know, like, there were a lot of bosses from Dark Souls that they had cut. One specific idea, not really from the Dark Souls series, but there was a mission that they had for Fallout, where back when they were still doing Fallout 4, that they had cut, where basically you would help out this guy. I think it's like you were helping him, like, get his, like, submarine or something together, and then it was going to be a follow-up quest where you go into the submarine with him, go underneath the radiated sea, and basically end up fighting, like, a giant kraken. They had the model for Fallout 4 for this giant kraken, and they ended up cutting it. So it's just like, when you think about it, it's just like it probably didn't fit in with, like, all the other kind of quests that they can do for the game. Right. Or they probably didn't have enough time to, like, put it in all together.
Yeah, like, every now and then I'll hear like, oh, we were going to pursue this story arc for a character, but then it ends up getting scrapped because we just don't have any room or time to really bring them in. And that always kind of sucks, because when they decide to cut the said arc or whatever they're building up towards, they already started like the groundwork of leading to that, and then it ends up just with nothing happening. It's just a hole that just sits there. So that always sucks to see.
Yeah, I would say that for my main answer, there's definitely a lot of video game content that we could have got. Would have been way better. Also, another one in Monster Hunter World, they were going to include a type of boss where you had to go underwater to fight. There's a boss, I think, that came out in it's Monster Hunter Tri. I don't know if you remember that one, but Monster Hunter Tri came out for the Wii. Oh no! So it was, like, I think 2011 or something like that, and they introduced this one monster called Lagiacrus. I don't know how to say it, but it's just like some underwater Loch Ness type monster. So now they're just showing, like, the other world environments. It was kind of crazy. It was kind of nutty, because Monster Hunter World really did include, like, monsters following you, like, all over the environment, climbing on trees and stuff, like, chasing after you and whatnot.
Nice, man. We got another question here. It says, sadly, R.I.P. to James Earl Jones. Yeah, he passed away not that long ago. Yeah, with the passing of him, he was curious, is there any voice actor you would want to give a shout out to, even if you don't know the name, just mention the role? For him, it's Kaiji Tang, because hearing his performance as Gojo and JJK, he wants to see all his roles he's done so far. I mean, yeah, my boy Yuri Lowenthal, more recently known as Spider-Man, but of course he was teenage Ben Tennyson, and he always kills it. Especially now, like, I haven't played Spider-Man 2 yet, but just hearing his performance when he starts going, like, Venom mode, pretty good. But aside from that, like, I don't really know a whole lot of voice actors. I don't really know the names, besides, like, like Steve Blum and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, like, the iconic ones, but I would assume that those also count, like, just anybody that you really love,
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Steve Blum. Like, sure, he does pretty good roles, but out of the big roles he does, like, no offense, but, like, I don't know. Like, he doesn't have range from what I've heard. Like, I remember when I first watched Cowboy Bebop, and I think I mentioned it on, like, the Legacy episodes of how, like, I don't know what to expect But I'm like, in the beginning, I'm like, oh, his voice just doesn't match Spike at all. But now I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
For my shout out, I would definitely give it to Patrick Warburton. Patrick Warburton is probably my favorite voice actor. He does the voices of like Joe Swanson from Family Guy, but he also does Brock Sampson from the Venture Brothers. Yeah. So he's honestly like, he's my favorite.
I mean, he's the original. Yeah, he's Kronk.
It's just really cool, honestly. Like there's just like there's a lot of pluses to his career. I don't really think it's a bad thing that he's kind of taken the voice with him this whole time. Like all of his characters are essentially the same voice, and I get that, but at the same time I love that, you know? Like I feel like the only one who really like went with it above and beyond was his role when he did Brock Sampson. There's just a lot of moments where Brock is just like yelling or like having very like emotional breakdowns, and he's just like yelling beyond the capacity of what he normally yells or acts like, and it's just hilarious. So yeah, I would definitely give it to Patrick Warburton. He's great. He's a great voice actor. Definitely my favorite. One thing that I'll talk about, it kind of relates, is last weekend I saw like the early sneak peek of Dandadan, like when they were releasing it in theaters, the first 3 episodes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
Heck yeah.
Yep, it was really rad. They had a short, like maybe 10-15 minute interview with the voice actors, the mangaka, the editor. It was really cool. You know, they talked a lot about like how they brought the idea of Dandadan together, what the editor wanted the mangaka to do before they brought Dandadan on. So he was telling him like, you know, like, hey, you know, this one shot is good. You know, how about you read like a bunch more romance though? Like, because I can tell you're trying to do this romance. So he was saying before that he made like the revised one shot for Dandadan, he read through like at least 100 different series of just pure romance novels or romance series. Oh. It was great. So like all the one shots that he has before leading up to Dandadan are all like really heavy into the rom. You can tell kind of right off the bat too, like when you start the series, it doesn't get super heavy into rom, but it's like you can tell like
but it's in there
of what will be. Yeah, it is definitely in there for sure.
Yeah.
The way that he like kind of puts it together, it's so good. It goes together so flawlessly. Like I would just describe to you a little bit. It's not like really focused on one character. There are 2 characters. The boy's name is Ken, but they could just call him Okarun for like a cult dude, right? And then there's Momo, who is the female main character. She's a gyaru, so she's like already like off the bat, like, you know, kind of got a sense of like bluntness to her, obviously. Like the reason why I bring it up too is because like I said, there was an interview portion with the voice actors, and the voice actor, like you would see, is so funny. She like they asked her like you know, like where did you get like the voice for Momo? You can tell she's like one of those people like high key. She's kind of a doom scroller, because she would talk about how all of her friends are gyarus and she likes gyaru stuff. So like all the time, like she's kind of like obsessed with it, like, and just knowing like basically about the culture of gyaru. So like when she's like be Momo in that moment when she's voice acting, you know, it's really easy for her to just go based off that attitude. Like I was like, dude, that's really awesome, you know. And then for the male protagonist, Ken, you know, this guy is like, he gets it, man, because he's just like, what did he say? He said, I didn't want to get my hopes up. I wanted to interview for the part, and once I got the part is when I started reading the series. I think what he said was he auditioned for the part and started reading some of the series, but before he actually got the part, he read the entire series up to like where it's at, I guess. His reason for this is like, I didn't want to get too attached to it in case I didn't get the part, but because I couldn't put it down, like I just kept reading it, like I had to let him know during the audition how much I fucking enjoyed this series. It's so funny the way that his voice acting comes into play, because they all describe him as very like kind of calm and in control with his emotions, and at the same time he has like these very brief moments where he'll just like have some erratic emotional outbursts. And it's so funny because he pivots that so well into the character. Like, I'll just give you a quick example without spoiling it. Like, they'll be arguing about something. He'll say something really quiet, as if like he got like really hurt by what she just said. A few seconds later, he'll like wait for her to get close, and then like have an emotional outburst, like call her ugly or something like that. And then they'll just immediately start fighting with each other. I think the show is going to take off really well when it comes out on Hulu. I don't know if all 3 episodes will come out at once when the show premieres on Hulu. I would definitely recommend checking it out because that interview was really awesome.
Yeah, no, I've only heard good things of how the anime looks when the episodes got leaked, and then like the opening goes hard,
super hard.
That's just the series. It's been on my list for such a long time. I just have to finally sit down and read it at some point.
I would say probably hold off on reading it, honestly. Like, watching it was not a bad vibe. It was really good. If you just want to, maybe even just take it at a time, read and watch at the same time. I don't really think it affects you. It affects me the same way. But like for me, it's like, if I know what's going to happen, I don't really look forward to it as much.
I always just prefer to read just because that's just the original intent as a word for it, because like certain animes will change stuff or whatever, and that's it is what it is. I guess I don't know, nowadays anime is getting to the point where, is it better if you just watch it or read it? It's kind of almost a 50-50 gamble, like reading it, and then when the anime comes out, that does deter me from watching it, because I'm like, am I just gonna spend time watching it when, like, I already read this, like I already know what's going down. If I'm going to watch anything, it might just be just to see the cool stuff happen. Like I've said before with like Gear 4 versus Don Flamingo. And then it's like, well, I guess I'll check out how Gear 5 looks and stuff like that. A special exception was like Tower of God Season 1, just because like, oh God, it's finally here. I guess it's just been long enough. I'm like, yeah, I would want to watch a viral hit. Now, if I want to go back, instead of rereading something, I would consider watching it instead. Like I've been thinking about going in and rewatching Yu Yu Hakusho, just because I feel like I just kind of like want to get back into that.
The dub, right?
Yeah, of course, the dub. Yeah. So instead of just rereading it, like I'd probably just watch that.
Yeah, that's definitely a good vibe right there.
Right on. So thank you for the questions, Mark, as always.
Grant put us on this account, and I just really took a good interest in it. The account is called Konbini Confessions. It's just videos of a guy going around interviewing people who are drunk. This guy is hilarious, man. He'll just go around. I think when I first found him, it was right after the Drake and Kendrick thing ended. So he was going in Japan, and he would ask people, he'd be like, what do you think about the Drake and Kendrick beef? Who do you think is winning? Everybody would have been like, Drake is winning. And I swear like 3 people would reply and be like, what is Kendrick Lamar? What is a Kendrick Lamar? So he's been active for a long time now. I would honestly give him a good time. Any of his videos I watched are really good. He really reminds me of the randomness like we would see from like Channel 5 back when Channel 5 first came out,
Yeah.
Just random street interviews. It's just so hilarious.
Yeah, I do like it when people do these interviews in Japan just to see like that perspective, because I feel like you don't get a lot of perspective on Japanese like takes on things, like compared to like what we always see on Twitter and stuff.
It's a perpetual stereotype if you think about it. Only just seeing a perspective of something, not in real life what it is. Mm-hmm. So this is also a good a good segue of seeing, if you ever just wanted to see what it's like to be drunk downtown in Tokyo somewhere, or like in any part of Japan, like this is what you can expect. It's definitely very entertaining to watch. He doesn't just stick with interviewing like random drunk people or whatever. He'll interview anybody, like whether you live in the city or not, if you're a tourist. I think one of the most recent videos I saw is he actually went to Hawaii, and he was doing
one thing about, like, I'm assuming this is like Tokyo or Kyoto or Osaka. Yeah, when I was out there, dude, the nightlife is popping off all the time. You're walking around Osaka at like 11 p.m. on a Monday night, and it looks like it's the weekend. Dude, like everything's open, people just walking around, having drinks, doing the karaoke. Like it's a wild, fun time.
Hell yeah, dude. I would definitely like to experience that. When you were over there, I know that you were kind of like on a time constraint, but did you get to like go to a bar or something like that?
I wanted to. Unfortunately, I just had to wake up like super early every morning. Where we finally get back to the hotel, it's already like 10 p.m. Got to get up at 6. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna have my beers, gonna eat my second dinner because I'm still very hungry. And like I did walk around every now and then, like at night, just to see like what's going down. And yeah, there's like just so many small bars that seem like a good time. And at least for us with the USD, very cheap drinks and all that. But yeah, I didn't really get to go in there. Good amount of friends there at the same time I was, which was pretty crazy. Didn't get to link up, sadly, but one of them, when we were in Kyoto, we were literally like a block away from each other. and he was like, oh dude, come with me to this Kitsune club, dude, it's gonna be awesome. Like, dude, I would love to, but I have to wake up super early, man. I can't make it. And he was there till like 4 a.m. because that's when the club closes.
Hell yeah, dude.
It's like there's so many people there. It looked lit. For sure, next time, if I ever go back down there, definitely gonna explore a lot of the nightlife in the cities. The main thing I did when I was out there was more of like the cultural stuff. Saw a lot of the castles, like went through like a bamboo forest and all that. Like went to Hakone, went up to one of the mountains up there. That was really nice. My trip wasn't focused on the city stuff that much. I'm not against it per se, because man, like in Shinjuku, it was so freaking crowded during the afternoon times, like during lunch rush and stuff. Like there's no way like you have time to just do anything or like even walk around. Same thing with like Shibuya. So it was kind of nice like to not be in like those quote unquote tourist kind of spots like that.
Any place you were around was almost kind of crowded, right?
Well, mostly Tokyo. Everything outside of Tokyo was not as crowded. Like if I had to pick, I would rather hang out in Kyoto, because it's the same exact vibes, but there's not as many people. And then, of course, I would hang out in Osaka, because I think Osaka's awesome. So, all right, guys, yeah, like Oscar said, we'll have links in the description to check out this page if you want to see more, if that catches your ears and eyes. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up for today. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode. So thank you, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.